So let me just get the first movie queued up here 1 second. We're going to go and finish up with more of the commercial films that came out of the World's Fair. And then if there's time, I'll take a look at some amateur ones. But the first one here is the film that was shown at the Johnson Wax Pavilion, To Be Alive. And it was a really spectacular film, incredible lines for it. And it became such a giant hit. It actually got an Academy Award for Best Short Subject. It was re-shown up at the Expo 67 in Montreal. And if you go to Racine, Wisconsin, to the Johnson Wax facility today, the headquarters, they transported what they call the Golden Rondelle Theater up to the headquarters, and they show the movie like 2-3 times a day up there. So it's quite a nice film. Let me just share a screen here, sound, and optimize for video. By now, I'm actually starting to get the hang of this, So share a screen, and hopefully here we go.
This is a test of the emergency broadcast system.
Oh, the beep did come through even though I muted myself. Oh, sorry about that.
Another day. In the rush, I'm swept away. Day after day after day, faster and faster. I have to work for a living, but this is living. I remember the time when it seemed my eyes had just opened. There were 1,000 eyes hidden in the leaves, watching. All was new. Everyone I met was a brother or a friend. If he couldn't speak, it didn't matter. We had endless time to look at each other. Every day I set out on a voyage of discovery. And though I sometimes sank, that way I learned to swim. How I traveled. I sailed across seas, continents, peninsulas, and up into the sky. I wanted to know about everything. I asked the trees how they grew. I asked the birds where their nests were hid. I searched among the leaves and found the elegant painted creatures that lived there. Everyone so busy. And I began to wonder what was beyond. With this prism, I could change the world. I had new eyes. Wherever it was gray, my prism made it bright. I changed muddy waters into a school of rainbow fish too fast to catch. I had a new power, and I wanted the world to know. I felt like climbing to the top of the world. So I climbed up and announced my name. And so we raced off. All the kids of the world. We're here. We're free. On our way to the moon, Jupiter, Saturn, galaxies and nebulae, suns beyond suns. Overnight, how everything changed then. We were all acting crazy one minute and hopeless the next. When they cheered me, I could have hugged all the girls in the world at once. We were shy and tongue-tied at first, but how we flirted once we learned how. We did the droop, the waggled tail, the smashed bananas, and the scrambled eggs. But the important thing was to shake all over from head to toe, especially around the middle. Until by some mysterious process you knew who was the one for you. We were free, free, free. So dawn came, and I found I belonged to the large world at last, where people go to work and make their lives. The sun rises, and men bring it indoors, down a long shaft, into the room to have a look at it. Or they go out into the fields, where the sun brings a rich harvest. We make of our work an art when we bring to it our love. And the children grow up and practice all the arts of man. We mold the classic shapes eternally. A man can create a building in his mind. Sure-footed and strong, he flies steel and builds cities. He can find in color something to dedicate his life to. Simply to be alive is a great joy. Everywhere, people gather in celebration. While on a mountaintop, a man all alone focuses on the stars. Wherever we are, the heart can make a quiet place. We need never lose our sense of life's wonder and its joy.
Yeah,
that film first presented in widescreen, and this is a video version of it that's been narrowed down for, at that time, TVs?
no, there were three separate screens in the theater, so you would have, just like in the IBM Pavilion, one thing going on in this screen, another one on this one. Just like you think about Circle-Rama, Circle Vision. Yeah, they have the America the Beautiful film that Disney put out on video, but it's only the one center screen. So there's more stuff going on either side of this this particular one. If you do go to Racine, Wisconsin, they do present it in the original three-screen format, which is really spectacular. This is like, to be alive light. So what I find really impressive about it, though, is there was not one single mention of shoe polish or anything that the company made, did, or was trying to sell you or anything in it. I mean, that's about as non-commercial a film as you could make. And I just think it was wonderful of Johnson, Wax to put something like that out. I did need to ask if there's any truth to the rumor that the scene dropped where the kids were going through the desert, but that was actually Don Lancaster on his way through on Route 66.
I don't talk about that, Bill. They never paid me.
Anyway, I thought that was a really nice film. We're going to go into the more commercial side of things now with one that you may have seen. Let me just get it queued up here. All right, 1 second. Switch over to share screen.
Huh.
Okay, share screen, and here we go. Share. I'll try to mute the beep for you, Don. There we go. Back to the building of the fair days.
This is H.V. Kaltenborn with a report on the coming New York World's Fair. First, we go to the City Hall and to the mayor of our great city, the Honorable Robert F. Wagner.
The New York World's Fair will begin in 1964 and will continue through 1965. This coincides with the 300th anniversary of the founding of the great city of New York, and we invite all of our friends throughout the United States, Canada, from all parts of the world to come and visit this great fair. Because not only will this be a terrific attraction, but New York City itself is a great attraction, and at that time we will have open our great new Lincoln Center, which will be the cultural center of the world. Our new arterial highways will make it easier to get to the fair, and once you're at the fair, I know it will be an experience that all Americans and all visitors will be proud of and think of for many years, and I'm sure will help in the struggle we all go through for world peace in a weary and tired world of today.
The fair will be ideally located. First of all, this part of New York and its sister state, New Jersey, comprise one of the greatest metropolitan areas in the world. New York City alone, with its 5 boroughs, has a land area of about 320 square miles. Of this area, here is the geographic center. Close to it is New York City's population center. And here, ideally located in the very heart of the city, is Flushing Meadow Park, the site of the New York World's Fair for 1964 and 1965. Flushing Meadow Park is today an oasis of peace in a great city, but it was not always so. Once, where these trees now stand, rose mounds of ashes and refuse. In place of grassy lawns, there was a swamp. Then, by a heroic effort, all was changed. The swamp was drained. 30 years' accumulation of refuse and waste was towed out to sea. The Flushing Meadow became the site of the first New York World's Fair. Now, 20 years have passed, and the old fair is just a memory. The 1939-40 fair had a storybook magic about it that delighted everyone. Architects had let their fancies run, and enchanting shapes proclaimed a wonderland. This was going to be fun. President of the Fair Corporation was Grover Whalen. Its chairman of the board, Harvey D. Gibson. And at a cornerstone laying was a man named Robert Moses, landlord of that fair. The year, 1938. A scant decade since fateful 1929. The world was ready for a holiday. Fair was open. Come to the fair. And they did. By train and plane, by sea and land, by washtub auto and paddle canoe, they came to the fair. The Kew Gardens Loop was opened and the cars poured in. The parking fields were big enough to handle any crowd, or so the planners thought. But on October 6, 1940, Newspaper Day was held and thousands of cars jammed the lots. But nobody seemed to mind. The fair was on, and the music was simply grand. Everybody got into the act, from Mayor LaGuardia to Milton Berle. It was a happy time. There were a dozen big shows. The Aquacade delighted everyone. Star of the show was Eleanor Holmes. There were stars in the audience, too. In fact, there were celebrities everywhere. But the fair wasn't all glamour and frivolity. In the second year, the American Common was dedicated, and Lieutenant Governor Charles Poletti spoke for the cause of peace. There were the exhibits, the finest in industry and culture from all over the world. Everything from tomato meeting of skills, industry, and the arts. At night, there was another kind of exhibit. Alice had her Wonderland and Dorothy her Land of Oz. But New York had the fair, and it was pure enchantment. On October 27, 1940, the New York World's Fair closed forever. It had been an earthly paradise, all too brief. Today, the meadow is once more quiet. The trees have grown to lovely maturity. The paths where millions trod bear the scars of age. The voices of multitudes and the sounds of music are gone from Flushing Meadow, but not forever. For work on the new fair has already begun. At the New York City building on October 27, 1960, Mr. Robert Moses, president of the New York World's Fair Corporation, arrived for the day's work. He is interviewed by John Tillman.
How are you, Commissioner? Nice to see you again, sir. If you don't mind, I'd like just to take a moment here to ask you a few questions about the 1964-65 World's Fair. Suppose we start out by asking, what is the overall purpose of the new fair?
Well, the overall stated purpose is education for brotherhood, and brotherhood through education. That's fixed in the law, in the Articles of Incorporation, and in the agreement with the United States Treasury. This has to be an educational institution to get tax exemption.
Mm-hmm. Now, physically, Commissioner, what will the new fair look like, do you think?
Well, physically, it will look Not unlike the 1939, 1940 fair, only better, bigger, taller buildings, same space.
What part will New York City have in the new fair?
You mean the city administration?
Yes, sir.
Well, the city exhibit will be in this building here, in the city building. And it will be one of the several exhibits. There'll be state exhibits. There'll be a federal exhibit. Exhibits of domestic exhibitors, industries, foreign exhibits.
And on the domestic level, will there be some very fancy and very expensive exhibits by American industry?
No question about that. There'll be more elaborate exhibits. There'll be more modern exhibits. There'll be more costly exhibits than at the last fair.
What do you feel will be the overall results of the 1964-65 fair, the effect on the world and so forth?
Well, it's very hard to answer that. Aside from amusement, aside from attracting people to New York, benefiting New York by bringing a great many visitors here from the hinterland and from abroad, I think it's likely to have a very substantial effect on international affairs, because the people meet here on common ground. There aren't any ideologies involved. There's no diplomacy involved. They simply bring their best products and exhibit them. It's just like an Olympic Games, excepting it applies to industry and business.
Thank you very much, Commissioner, for taking a little time out here from your busy schedule. And we have lots of work, and see you again. Thank you very much, sir.
As president of the Fair Corporation, Mr. Moses attends meetings of the corporation's executive committee, the group responsible for making all the top-level decisions. Present at this meeting is Mr. Thomas J. Deegan, Jr., chairman of the executive committee. Mr. Bernard F. Gimbel, chairman of the organization committee for the fair. Mr. Charles F. Brucey, attorney at law for the Fair Corporation. General William E. Potter, executive vice president. Mr. Wallace K. Harrison, chairman of the board of design. In addition to its own meetings, the executive committee meets at other locations, like New York's Metropolitan Club, to preside over the Fair Corporation's board of directors. On the board are some of New York City's most distinguished names in advertising, public relations, radio and television, transportation, publishing, and the arts. Let's see what plans these men have made for the New York World's Fair. The fair will occupy 646 acres. In addition to the lake area, there will be 4 other exhibit areas: industrial, international, federal and states, and transportation. Let's consider each in turn. For the industrial exhibits, work got underway at the New York City building on August 4, 1960, where representatives from leading United States manufacturers gathered for a briefing. Hundreds of industrialists were there, representing almost 200 United States companies. Opening remarks were made by Mr. Stuart Constable, Operations Vice President for the fair. Mr. Constable introduced Mr. Moses, who emphasized the importance of the new highway program to provide adequate transportation to the fair.
These aren't just lines on a map. These things are being constructed. The money is there to build them, and they're the key to the success of the fair.
Mr. Deegan's topic is of particular interest to purchasers of Fair Corporation notes.
Has been characterized as the $6 billion sale, in that we hope that that is the amount of money that will be poured into this metropolitan area during 1964 and 65.
Now, General Potter described the corporation's administrative.
The people who head those divisions in this organization are brilliant. They're driving. They're most competent.
Mr. J. Anthony Pannock, Vice President in charge of industrial, federal, state, and special exhibits, gave basic information.
Space will be allocated on the basis of the promptness with which plans for exhibits and requests for space are submitted.
Many companies filed for space within a few days after the meeting. Response was quick and enthusiastic. By March 1st of 1961, almost 1/2 of the space in the industrial area had been committed. Invitations for the international exhibits have been presented to governments, industrial and cultural groups all over the world. On August 14, 1960, the first visiting team left for overseas. Led by Charles Poletti, Vice President of International Exhibits, the group went to Turkey, Greece, Austria, and to Yugoslavia for a visit to the Belgrade Fair. Various other activities have publicized the New York World's Fair. In Spain, publicity on television. In Italy, a press conference and an audience with Pope John. A panel discussion in Scandinavia. Receptions in Bolivia, Peru, and Costa Rica. Uruguay, Colombia, and Ecuador. A meeting in Israel with Prime Minister Ben-Gurion. In Russia, with Ambassador Gromyko. In Germany, with the State Secretary, and in Poland, with the Vice Minister. And worldwide participation was urged by the Honorable Adlai E. Stevenson, seen here with Mayor Wagner and Commissioner Richard C. Patterson, Jr., member of the Fair's Executive Committee. By March 1st of 1961, 22 foreign countries had announced participation in the international area. In this area, our own federal and state governments will have their exhibits. Federal participation was assured by President Kennedy on February 1st in a meeting with Mr. Moses and Mr. Deegan at the White House. And 3 ex-presidents of the United States, Herbert Hoover, Harry S. Truman, and Dwight D. Eisenhower, have added their support as honorary chairman of the fair. And Nelson A. Rockefeller, governor of the state of New York, invited all of the states to exhibit and appointed Lieutenant Governor Malcolm Wilson to develop plans for the New York State exhibit. The transportation exhibit section of the fair will be under the supervision of the Port of New York Authority. For this report, let us hear from the chairman of the authority, Mr. Sloan Colt.
On 80 acres at Flushing Meadow Park, we are bringing together America's great automobile, airline, maritime, railroad, bus, truck, and aerospace industries. And the millions of people who visit the fair in 1964 and 1965 will enjoy the unequaled transportation facilities of the Port of New York. The great new terminal now under construction at LaGuardia Airport, magnificent New York International Airport, Newark Airport, the heliports at 30th Street and the Wall Street area, and the great complex of railroads, highways, and new bus terminals will play an important part in transporting visitors to this great fair.
The 3 airports have served 14 million people in a single year. By water, New York City piers handle 1 million ocean-going passengers a year. By railroad, a vast network serves 120 million people annually. From the north, the New York Central and the New Haven. From the south, the Pennsylvania. And in its run from the east, the Long Island Railroad passes directly by the site of the fair. A new station will be built here on the site of the old one to serve the new fair. By rapid transit, the city's subway system carries 4.5 million people in a single day. Of the 3 lines that run to the general area, 1 will serve the fair directly. Subways, airports, buses, ships and railroads, all are of vital importance in transporting visitors to the fair. But of special importance is the great network of roads, the arterial system that will carry millions to the fair from all points. In the area of the fair alone, $95 million, 90% federal and 10% state, will be spent on arterial improvements that will be completed when the fair opens. The Grand Central Parkway will be widened for a distance of 9.5 miles. Construction to begin in the spring of 1961. The existing Van Wyck Expressway will be extended to run along the east border of Flushing Meadow to create an important new artery. The Northern Boulevard will be widened and improved from the Grand Central Parkway to the Flushing River Bridge. The Whitestone Expressway will be widened from the Flushing River Bridge to the Whitestone Bridge approach. Key planner behind arterial improvements like these is Robert Moses. These projects, together with New York's other transportation facilities, will make the Flushing Meadow one of the most accessible places in the world. Now, first construction for the fair got underway. Ground was broken for the new administration building on August 4, 1960. Under an accelerated program, prefabricated steelwork went up in a few weeks, and concrete for floors was placed. In just a little over 5 months since groundbreaking, the administration building was completed. On this day, January 11, 1961, the new administration building would be dedicated, and the new Throgs Neck Bridge across the East River would be open to first traffic. This great bridge will be a vital link in the network of arteries to the fair. On the Bronx Plaza, hundreds gathered to celebrate the dedication. Distinguished officials now cut the ceremonial ribbon, and the Throgs Neck Bridge is officially opened. Hundreds of cars form a cavalcade for the trip to Flushing Meadow and the new administration building. First traffic over the bridge. From the bridge, the cavalcade speeds along the new Clearview Expressway, then makes the turn into the Long Island Expressway. Millions of visitors to the fair will travel this identical route. Now the cavalcade reaches the new administration building. Here, in a temporary tent set up for the occasion, the fair played host to over 1,000 guests, city and state officials, and ambassadors of many foreign countries. This event made news, and reporters filed their stories at the scene. In charge of press, radio, and television for the fair is Vice President of Communications, Mr. William A. Burns, talking here with Mr. Sidney M. Shapiro, General Manager of the Long Island State Park Commission. After the luncheon, guests visit the model room to see an exact scale replica of the fair grounds. As buildings and exhibits are constructed, they will be added in miniature to the model. An important feature of the fair will be its theme symbol, to be built by the United States Steel Corporation. Here on February 14, 1961, contracts were signed with the fair. By this agreement, the United States Steel Corporation, represented here by Mr. Roger M. Blau, Chairman of the Board, will present to the Fair Corporation the theme symbol, called the Unisphere. This is a giant world globe of stainless steel, 13 stories high, that symbolizes man's achievements in an expanding universe. But the fair is not the only great event planned for 1964. Here, on New York's west side, is being constructed the great Lincoln Center for the Performing Arts. Here will be a center for the symphony, ballet, drama, and the opera. This will be the home of the New York Philharmonic, the Metropolitan Opera, the Juilliard School of Music, and schools of drama and music, all united in perhaps the grandest cultural project ever conceived. At work on the project are some of the finest architects, musicians, and city planners in America. Chairman of the board of Lincoln Center is John D. Rockefeller. Under his leadership, construction of the center began on May 14, 1959, with the groundbreaking ceremonies. President Eisenhower spoke of the importance of the center.
Here will develop a mighty influence for peace and understanding throughout the world. I pay sincere tribute to your vision, your effort, your energy that is creating the Lincoln Center for the Performing Arts.
And so the city prepares for 1964. The Lincoln Center and the fair will be partners in jointly sponsored programs, and leading museums like the Metropolitan Museum of Art and the Museum of Modern Art will work with the fair in joint activities. And to the millions who will visit the fair, New York City extends its welcome. The shops on the avenues, the new hotels, restaurants, the sidewalk cafes, the hit shows, the tinsel of Broadway, the animals at the zoo, a park in springtime, the view from the tallest building like a picture postcard, the United Nations, the libraries, the art galleries, Jones Beach in summer and ice skating in the fall. To millions of visitors from all over the world, New York will say, welcome. And on the Flushing Meadow, the stage is set for a new fair, just as there is a park here today after the old fair. So will there be a park after the coming fair. A new, restored park, more beautiful than before. A permanent feature of the park will be the Unisphere, the symbol of our theme. And this is the theme of the New York World's Fair, that the nations of the world will unite in showing their skills, inventions, arts, and aspirations, and in so doing will educate the peoples of the world to know their dependence on one another, and so create peace through understanding. This is H.V. Kaltenborn.
Okay, back to another travelogue presentation of preview of the fair. It's a much shorter one.
Everything is booming out Flushing Meadows way, where the New York World's Fair shows graphic signs of progress. The News of the Day camera, aloft in a helicopter, focuses on the $17 million federal pavilion. Its theme, Challenge to Greatness. The New York State Pavilion. 1,600-foot-high concrete columns will support the tent of tomorrow. The Port Authority heliport will be operational by October, 6 months before the fair's April '64 opening. The air gateway to the fair is but one means of access. By railroad and subway, via marina and arterial approaches, the millions of visitors can come to the fair. Many highways will converge on the site. What they will see is a dramatic presentation of the new and changing world, industry and progress, housed in $500 million worth of exhibits. William A. Shea Stadium, new home of the Mets and scene of next year's All-Star baseball game. Finishing the job of constructing the stainless steel Unisphere, the fair's symbol, dramatizing the interrelation of the peoples of the world and their hopes for peace through understanding.
Okay, let me get the next one. The next one's a little bit different. Something, a film somebody put together that you might enjoy if you're into puppets and things like that. So let me get that going.
Au revoir. Oh, cette charming people. Mais oui, cette charming people. Bonsoir. Bonsoir. Bonsoir.
They have all parts to play. Some are nice, some risque, and they're all in the gay parade. Da parade, da parade, da parade, da parade, da parade.
That was a real kick. Probably the first time some of you have seen the puppets performing at the New York State Pavilion like that. Let me get the next one here.
To make cooking and serving so quick and free.
Oh, hang on, let me get
The
this
charcoal.
back to the beginning. Here we go.
Among the colorful World's Fair attractions is a dream home for tomorrow's living today. You'd have to touch the siding to be convinced it's laminated plastic, the key to this house which needs almost no maintenance. The first visitors tour the ranch house, where an invisible family enjoys carefree living. In the boys' room, bunk beds are a space-saving feature. The unique model train is the stuff youthful dreams are made of. A room to delight any girl. Even her dress dances, and everywhere the walls, doors, and furniture surfaces spotlight the exciting new Formica materials and specially designed fabrics. The wall paneling in the somewhat formal living room is forever fresh. And here, too, the Native American furniture shows the flexibility of laminates. The oohs and ahs come often with the dream all-electric kitchen. Every surface can be wiped clean in seconds. The textured patterns are as fresh as spring, and everything's newly designed to make cooking and serving so quick and free. The charcoal grill conveniently backs the fireplace of the family room, which is another stop on the tour. Informal comfort and easy care here. All across the country, replicas of the World's Fair House are being built for public viewing.
Did you know that? All across the country, replicas are being built? I think that was stretching it just a tad.
It's the biggest, they say, the most beautiful, the most awe-inspiring, the most colorful, the most spectacular event of this era, the New York World's Fair. In a word, it's the greatest. Yes, the New York World's Fair is the greatest. That's what people have said. Your friends, your neighbors, your own customers who by the millions have responded to that old folk song invitation of, "Hi-ho, come to the fair." And have they ever come? Look at this World's Fair parking lot at the fairgrounds. 10,000 cars. Count them. What state are you from? What city or town? Look around, and you'll find license plates of cars from every state in the country. But even before leaving the huge parking area and starting on the trip through the fair, a familiar name greets the visitors. And below the name, the most advanced in ultra-modern service stations, designed and built by Sinclair, especially for the World's Fair. The eye-catching circular station is surrounded by 3 circular pump islands. Each island has 2 orbiting satellite gasoline pumps and a central customer service cabinet. Pumps roll to the customer's car as if by magic. This marvel is a first in the oil industry. A world of wonders by Sinclair, the exclusive retail supplier of all petroleum products sold at the World's Fair. Every day, thousands of motorists view this novel service feature. Some, your own customers. Some, the same motorists who pass your station every day. When they get home, they remember the name Sinclair. They remember the fast, courteous service. The idea is to get them to stop in at your station for more of the same. This World's Fair parking lot accommodates 10,000 cars a day. And anytime you have 10,000 cars in one place, there are going to be service problems, all kinds. Including this. A motorist in need is a Sinclair service opportunity indeed. That's why fast, efficient Sinclair help is always ready just around the corner, thanks to special service facilities throughout the parking areas. 25 service telephones connect directly with Sinclair service. Calls for help are answered promptly by a specially equipped service car. This is another example of the kind of service Sinclair is telling motorists at the fair to expect wherever they see the name Sinclair. Across the fairgrounds, there's another 10,000 car parking lot. Here, too, a Sinclair service station welcomes travelers from all parts of the nation to the excitement of the fair. Incidentally, the fleet of more than 300 buses that takes motorists from parking lots to the fair gates also uses Sinclair products. But not everybody comes to the fair by car. One of the outstanding features of the World's Fair is this modern marina, the largest on the eastern seaboard, equipped to handle 1,000 boats at regular berths and at the many offshore moorings. In addition to private boats, visitors also come by speedy hydrofoils. These run on a regular schedule from New York City. A feature of this marina is an ultra-modern floating service station, a completely new concept in marine service designed by Sinclair. Boat customers are served the way they like to be served, at sea. Another example of pioneering by Sinclair. This marina will continue in operation after the fair is over. Another way Sinclair makes favorable impressions. Impressions on which you can capitalize at your service station. But now, on to the fair itself. Just what is it in the array of exhibits your neighbors and customers want to see most? Well, with some, it's the Unisphere. The world as it looks from 6,000 miles away. The largest model of the Earth ever built. An achievement in architecture, it's also the symbol and motto of the fair itself. Peace through understanding. Some folks head first for the exhibit where they can see the world's largest outdoor photographic prints in color. Here, 15 exhibit sections demonstrate dramatically the influence of photography on many aspects of modern life. Then there are those who are attracted to a dramatization of the history of electricity, from its beginning to the mighty bang of nuclear fission. And here's the spot they head for, the General Electric exhibit. And these same people probably also take in the exhibit where the wizardry of modern chemistry is presented with entertaining showmanship. The biggest always has an appeal to some of us. And here is the world's largest electronic carillon. More than 600 bells. Our country's challenge to greatness. This theme has a special appeal to many. In the United States Pavilion, colorful presentations trace America's progress from the dramatic past to the challenge of space travel. Some visitors with a faraway look in their eyes are particularly interested in exhibits of faraway lands and places. Exhibits that, through art, atmosphere, and architecture, bring pieces of the world to one World's Fair. Many people have a special interest in the history of transportation. Old and new. You'll find some of them watching intently the steady parade of helicopters taking off and landing on the roof of the New York Port Authority building. You'll also find them standing in line to get a tantalizing glimpse of what life will be like not too many decades from now. And at the Ford exhibit, they will enjoy a unique and exciting trip through a fantasy land of the past, present, and future. Or you'll find them shaking their heads in awe as they view a gigantic 100-foot engine model. And again, as they view a new experimental turbine power car, possibly a car of the future. Fuel, lubrication, Sinclair, of course. 34 million people visited the fair in its first year. And during that year, close to 6 million of them visited Sinclair Dinoland. Not only are they welcome to the exhibit, but as a means of getting more closely acquainted with Sinclair dealers, each family receives a special coupon good for a free gallon of gasoline at their local Sinclair dealer station. These are a few of the millions of car-owning, traveling Americans who will be telling their friends about the fair and about Sinclair Dinoland for years to come. Sinclair Dinoland, in a prime location, surrounded by titans of American industry. One of the most popular exhibits of the New York World's Fair. A world of wonders that flourished 200 million years ago. A vanished world, recreated by Sinclair. Youngsters and adults alike stand in awe of a world that was. Here, too, there are interesting favorites. The ponderous Trachodon, 32 feet long and 14 feet high. 1,500 teeth, and not a single cavity. Tyrannosaurus, king of the tyrant lizards. Not much on looks, maybe, but popular with many visitors. 50 feet from tip to tip, 20 feet high, fiercest creature that ever lived. A real mean kid. With 6-inch daggers for teeth, he was the terror of his neighborhood. Triceratops, sort of a 30-foot walking battering ram. That skull measures 7 feet. The Ankylosaurus is also popular, if you judge by the amount of attention he gets. The world's first armored tank, you might say. That trunk is completely covered with thin, bony plates. If the situation called for still more protection, he simply grew spears which projected from his body armor. Stegosaurus, 25 feet long, weighing 4 tons. A versatile sort of chap. He won a lot of arguments in his time, but very few beauty contests. No wonder Dinoland is so popular with so many fair visitors, is on so many must-see lists. And of course, there's that face so familiar to all of us. Our own Dino, On formal occasions, he's called Brontosaurus. Big fella, isn't he? 70 feet long. Tips the scales at a substantial 35 tons, which makes him about the right size for a company like ours. As a result of being featured as the Sinclair trademark, Brontosaurus is world famous. The miniature of Brontosaurus is one of the highlights of Dinoland. Visitors make their own souvenirs. This has helped make it a favorite. In fact, Dino is the most popular souvenir sold at the fair. The New York World's Fair. Something for everybody. And wherever you turn, something of awe, interest, excitement, and wonder. The millions of people who have already visited this wondrous fair dedicated to industry, understanding, and peace are a glowing tribute to the compelling magnetism of the fair. And there is still another year of great promise ahead of us. Another year of opportunity during which Sinclair's many activities at the World's Fair will create a favorable image for the Sinclair name and for the 25,000 Sinclair dealers who sell the finest petroleum products to the motoring public.
Okay, now we have a catchy little tune coming up here that's going to want to make you race right out to the nearest subway station. Not subway restaurant, subway station.
Part of the fun of the World's Fair is the subway special that takes you there.
There's a good time feeling in the air.
On the subway special to the World's Fair. Trains are easy to catch anywhere,
Anytime, night or day.
Just pay 15 cents,
Hop aboard!
and you're on your way. Yes, part of the fun of the World's Fair is the subway special that takes you there.
Your transit authority has 430 spanking new picture window cars for the elevated ride to the World's Fair. Express trains start at Times Square and Grand Central, and you're safely at the fair in less than 20 minutes. Take it easy. Take the subway.
Yes, part of the fun of the World's Fair is the subway special that takes you there.
Very contagious, isn't it? I get one more here, and the video's not the greatest on this. I have another copy someplace else, but it's kind of a fun show.
We got our tickets to go. You know the World's Fair is a swell fair. Pop your eyes with surprise, ring a bell fair. Holiday on a gay carousel fair. You're gonna love it, I know.
Folks you meet come from miles around.
You can see they're glad to be there.
You can tell from the smiles around.
Every grinner picks a winner, because the World's Fair is a grand fair. All the world in the palm of your hand. Makes you feel you're in real fairyland. There's not a fair anywhere to compare with a great World's Fair.
Welcome to Electric Showcase, and tonight's show, the World's Fair Entertainment Spectacular, starring your hosts, Gordon and Sheila McRae. Guest stars the new Frisky Minstrels. Special guest star, Al Hurt, with highlights from these international pavilions: Africa, Mexico, Polynesia, Spain, Venezuela, plus the Auto Thrill Show, and Sid and Marty Croft's Les Poupées de Paris. All brought to you by the investor-owned Electric Light and Power Companies.
Well,
I forgot how to do it.
wait a minute. I'll come and get you.
It's been a grand night, keep the band tonight, made us feel we're in real fairyland tonight. All the world in the palm of your hand tonight. We hope that all big and small have a ball at the grand world.
Good night, everybody.
Well, a special good night to Al Hurt and the new Christy Minstrels.
And we want to thank the good people of the investor-owned Electric Light and Power Companies all over America for letting us bring you this exciting grand tour of the international entertainment at the World's Fair.
We had a ball.
We sure did. Good night.
Good night, everybody.
Let me just bring this back a second. It's interesting if you look at the names, some of the credits here. Let's just rewind it here. Gil Cates did an awful lot of specials for Disney, the Academy Awards, all sorts of things. Might notice here, written by Selma Diamond. Anybody know where that name is? Might be familiar from?
Night Court.
Exactly. Yeah, she was a big-time writer on things like Show of Shows with Sid Caesar and that, and started doing bit parts and got that big role where she was the bailiff on Night Court. And we need to give a shout out to our own Albert Fisher, not with us today, but Albert worked on so many of these shows. If you haven't seen this whole show, it's really great. My particular favorite is the Al Hurt segment of it. Maybe some week we can show the show.
Electric Showcase was presented by the investor-owned Electric Light and Power Companies. Don Morrow speaking. This program was pre-recorded.
For me, it's interesting when you watch all these videos, how many times did you see the words presented by United States Steel? I mean, they gave the Unisphere free to the World's Fair, but with the proviso that they get credited anytime the Unisphere image was used. So think what brilliant piece of marketing that was on. You watching a film about Sinclair? Well, here's United States Steel. You're watching a show about this? Here's United States Steel. You're watching something else? United States Steel. So I think it worked out well for them. Let me look through the comments here. But anybody have any favorite moments or things they had not seen or remembered from before?
We have a Sinclair gas station in Torrance still.
You know, they're back out here now. We have one actually maybe about 4 miles from the house, and they had disappeared for years. We had one right where I lived in Baldwin, New York, and it was there forever and then went away. And they started coming back. The first one I saw was maybe about 8 years ago in Glendale, and we were driving to a show over there, and what the hell is a Sinclair station doing there? And if you write to Sinclair, if you go to their website, they'll send you a little green dino sticker. They have a little welcome pack. We're back in your neighborhood.
Huh. They didn't show anything about Walt Disney when the puppets. They could have shown the small world a little bit.
Well, they're not really puppets. I mean, all the puppets we saw were either done with the traditional marionettes or with the rod puppets. I mean, to me, I got a real kick out of watching the guy with the puppets dancing, the two of them going around, and I'm just thinking how I'd be tied up in a Gordian knot if I tried that. And then stuff like the bicyclist. The other thing I was thinking as we were watching it was having a real appreciation for the people that did one of my favorite shows growing up, Thunderbirds.
Mhm.
You already watched that, the Jerry Anderson thing? I mean, the puppets, it's pretty precise, and you watch the one where the one's flittering her eyelashes and everything, so much mechanisms and everything they have to build into them. I found that kind of interesting.
You were mentioning Sinclair, the dinos, the green brontosaurus. They're very collectible. You see them up and down 66. The ones they used to put on top of the stations. A lot of people have bought them, and we ran into probably about 15 of them during our trip recently.
Really? Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, Michelle made an interesting comment. 10,000 of the same car. I wonder how many people cannot find their car at the end of the day. That was always a big thing for Disneyland or Disney World too. Everybody would go home and there would be somebody that couldn't find their car, so they would have to put them in a car and just drive them around the parking lot. And finally, around 3 in the morning, there would be their car sitting out there. So, but the number of people that would get really, really panicked that somebody must have stolen my car, and you would try to convince them, no, people lose them all the time. I know right where I parked. It was right here. It's gone. Oh, there it is.
I've been there. I've been there. I went back to the front and there was a guy in a window and I was in tears. And he said, oh, no, it's not stolen. It's not stolen. It's still there. And I had to call my husband to come out and he had to drive me around to find it.
Well,
that was before, the parking lot was still there. It was.
Now it's great with the phone. I mean, you just park and, it remembers where your car is and gets your way back to it. So, Carolyn, your dad had a Sinclair station, huh? Did you have a lot of Sinclair stuff at home?
I remember having one of the little dinosaurs. I mean, he was only involved with it with the partner for a couple of years, but right. I do remember having those. I don't know what happened to him though.
That's kind of neat. So great. Well, I hope people enjoyed it. I mean, I got a kick out of watching some of them. I mean, again, I mentioned it To Be Alive at the beginning. Absolutely non-commercial aspect. I applaud Johnson Wax. And it's really what we saw today was less than a third, because although it's 3 screens and we saw one, it's the whole impact of one screen would go dark and another screen light up and things would move around. A very, very impressive presentation. Have any of you been up to see it in Racine since it's the recent years? I thought you had, Wayne. How did it feel to go back and see it again?
Well, to tell you the truth, it was so long ago that I really couldn't remember seeing it at the fair. So it was like a new revelation.
Great.
But
Still
it was, pardon?
Still entertaining?
Oh, very much so. And they had done a fantastic job of transferring it to 3 high-definition projectors, so it's perfectly preserved.
That's really impressive. Yeah, I mean, there's so many of these, companies. Somebody was selling the DuPont show a number of years ago. I have that somewhere sitting on a DVD. That it's really great. Some of them lasted, and others, it's just gone. Where did they go? So, particularly with things like companies changing and getting morphed and everything else. At one point I was thinking about doing an article about if you really want to put your company out of business, go to and participate in the World's Fair, because there's so many of them that ran into huge financial problems. And there are some companies like people remember the name Julimar Farms. They had a big exhibit where you could go in and see all these plants and gardens, and they had miniature horses with big signs, stay away, they do bite. But their whole concept was that they would set up these Julimar farm dealerships around the country, and you'd walk in, and then you'd fill out a little box and send me 2 of these sterling silver rose bushes, 5 crates of daffodil bulbs or whatever, and they were trying to become like the McDonald's of gardening, and it just didn't take off because I think one of the bets they made a mistake on was that what will grow in one city won't grow in another, and you have to have very localized model and product. But they had huge hopes for the fair, and then of course the Underground World Home, and so many others like Westinghouse. The time capsule. It's gonna be open 5,000 years. Well, Westinghouse didn't last for 50 years after the fair ended. So GE imploded. The big 3 auto companies had huge problems. It's just amazing when you think about all the companies that were the biggies at the fair. A few of them have done well. IBM is still around, and NCR. But even the Bell system, I mean, that's such a downsize of what it was. But
Kodak.
oh yeah, Kodak. How could I forget Kodak? I mean, that to me, I love the Kodak Pavilion, and being in the photography, that was really good. And I probably mentioned it on a prior talk. One of the first job offers I had coming out of college was to go to work for Kodak, and I really, how do you turn down Kodak? But it was in such a crap bag of a city that I said I just don't want to live here, and thank God I made that decision, because you can imagine it's very nice every month now getting my the retiree checks from Disney and that sort of thing, going to work for Kodak. I don't know what you get every month, but memories. So. So I hope folks enjoyed some of the look back, and like I said, I got a kick out of it. Things like the puppets were. I'm not really a big puppet fan, but I can appreciate the artwork and the hours of practice people have to put into it. And I also, as I mentioned, things like they say, copies of this World's Fair home were going up around the country. That's not quite the way it worked. But you may remember they actually did have a contest where you could go and win a World's Fair home. And they would build, I think they ended up building 3, maybe 4 of those. One was in Brooklyn, New York, and there were a couple others so that you could enter this contest. They would build you the house. And a couple of years ago, we tracked down where 2 of them still were. And one of them looks very, very much like it was at the fair. And the other one is so remodeled you wouldn't have it, any recognition of it. But it was kind of fun. I remember my grandparents drove us by to see the one in Brooklyn. It wasn't far from their house at all. So, Darren mentioned anybody has thoughts on the Warner Brother Ranch being razed? Yeah, that's really sad. I had an office at the Warner Brother Ranch, and it was really neat to drive over there and see now they moved it, but the town plaza where they did opening for Cheers with the fountain and everything. And you start remembering, this city street was used in the Blondie movies and that sort of stuff. When the 94 earthquake hit, our house was made uninhabitable for a while. And Warner Brothers was very nice. They brought trailers onto the ranch and put them up in the ranch. And my brother and father came out from New York. And my brother got such a kick to be able to go back to New York and tell people he spent the week sleeping in Samantha Stevens' driveway. So it was really a very class act that the Warners did. I mean, because a lot of us, depending where you were near the epicenter, you could have your house have nothing, or it could be just demolished. And potential spam. I don't think we'll talk to them. They're gone. But it was very nice. They put us on the ranch, and it was really a kick to be able to walk around it at night and that sort of thing. When I was there, they were doing the Dukes of Hazzard, and my office was right near the auto shop where they were restoring all the Dukes of Hazzard cars. So you could walk out and see 10, 20 General Lees in various states of disrepair, fenders missing, that sort of thing. They would take half of this car, bolt it onto that car. But we still had the street there that was used for high noon. It was a tremendous place to work. So tearing it down, build more sound stages and everything, pretty sad. But that's Hollywood. Which actually leads me into what I'm going to do for the talk 2 weeks from now. Next week, I won't be doing a talk. If you're in the LA area, there's a tremendous old house called the Oak Ridge Estate. It was built by movie star Jackie Oakey, and then sold to Barbara Stanwyck. And it's right out here, right near where we live. And I've responded to all sorts of burglar alarm calls there because vagrants keep breaking into it. But the city of LA bought it, and they're very, very slowly restoring this house. And 1 week a year, 1 weekend a year, or actually I think it's 1 day a year, they give tours of it, which happens to be next Saturday. So Carol and I are going for a tour of the Oak Ridge estate. 2 weeks from now, I intend to do a visit to the Walt Disney Studios, which we just did yesterday, and it was really good. We both Carol and I worked there and met there, and our daughter's been there a number of times, but Weston, our new son-in-law, is not, and he's a big Disney fan. So we did Disneyland on Thursday, and we did Disney Studios yesterday, and we got a really nice VIP tour of Walt's office, just us. And it's really, I last been there about 5 years ago when they were just finishing rebuilding it. And we had to step over tarps and ladders and everything, and it's all finished now. But I got some really, I think, neat pictures. I haven't checked them all. Hopefully they came out, but there were actually five of us. A friend of ours, Leslie Smith, joined us. So we were all snapping photos left and right. I think I ended up with 400 something from yesterday. So I've got to pare them down, and we'll be here all week. But if you ever do get a chance, D23, the Disney Fan Club, offers tours of Walt's office from time to time, and just being in there and feeling the aura of the guy, and everything he created and everything he did. And then his desk is the office is pretty much the as it is the day he died. With one small caveat. Somebody asked, "Boy, his office was really neat. Was he really that neat a man?" I said, "No, he absolutely would trash the office with ideas, papers, charts, maps, everything. And at the end of the day, the secretaries would clean it all up so it was clean for him the next day." Well, he went home one day and they cleaned it up, not realizing he'd never be back again because then he went to the hospital and died. So I said, "This is the way Walt's office looked every day he came to work, not the way it was when he went home." So I hope folks had a good time with things today, and I hope folks in the heat wave belt on, you don't melt, and I hope your electricity stays on.
Yeah, we've had people in the area lose it, but ours is staying up so far, so we'll see what happens.
Yeah, so anybody else have anything fun they have planned in the next 2 weeks? Any birthdays we've missed? Brock's birthday, wasn't that recently, Brock?
That was back in April. So it's
okay.
it had been a time, but we'll see each other this Wednesday, even though you thought it was last Wednesday.
Looking forward to that. Carol may this too. She usually has something on Wednesdays, and it got called off, so she was trying to decide. But yeah, we have imagine. I keep saying WED. To me, it's always going to be WED. Imagineering luncheon for retirees, and it stopped with the pandemic. And I think you went to the last one. I wasn't able to make, but this first time we've been in the same room in years.
Yeah. Well, they had one last summer as a test one, and it went pretty well, but she didn't do anything more. Then they did that earlier one a couple of months ago, and I think she's getting ready to move into a monthly schedule again, which would be kind of nice.
Yeah, it was funny because the day before had met, Don and I met on the first day, but the other day before that, we had gone to a presentation that the Disney Archives did in Burbank, and there's a Thursday Disney chat that a number of us participate in. I told some people about that, and they came. So it was the first, talked to them for the last 2 years on Zoom, and met them on person on Saturday, and then saw Don on Sunday. And I said, "Boy, people look different when they're not in a little square." So, they actually have legs and things like that. So.
Yeah, I was sorry to have missed that. Actually, you told me about it, but it was out of the Academy Museum, and we had to pick the Academy Museum. So.
Yeah, no, I think you made a good choice. What was fun for me, again, you go back to some of these things, and there's other people that you do know that you haven't seen in years because we've all been so isolated and everything. So it's like, oh, the heck with it. I'll take a chance. I'll give you a big hug, and I'll keep my fingers crossed. But yeah, I'm looking forward to the lunch. There's quite a few people signed up for Wednesday.
Yeah, this is a big one. It's I think went so long without having it, and I think after the success of the first one, because even that one she had last year, all three of them have been at the same location now, or will have been, and that one was a fairly small group, the next time it was a much larger group. And now it's a really big group. So and we're almost going to take over the restaurant, I think.
Oh, good deal. By the way, when we went to
Yeah.
Disneyland on Thursday, I used some of my old complimentary tickets. And I've written an article for the next alumni newsletter of how you can use your old free complimentary tickets. And it turns out when you walk up to the gate, that they're just, wow, these are great because you don't need reservations. So they said you can use them any day of the year, even if the park is theoretically sold out. If you're crazy enough that you want to go any day of the year, still have the old tickets. They would give us free tickets several times a year. And if you had a silver pass, you didn't need the tickets. You could give them to people, or you could take the people with you. So, but since both Carol and I had a silver pass, we just amassed quite a pile of these tickets. So when we went the other day, the tickets we gave them were for 1987 and 1989, and we had gone at the last time we used them a couple of years ago. Like they were tickets from like 1960 or something, and the lady was like, "Oh my God, I just trained somebody in these yesterday," and I said, "You'll never see these, and here you come. I got to go find them and show them these." So it was kind of a fun thing. So yes, those are the exact ones we use, Brock. Yep. Those are either 87 or 89, I bet, if you look on the back.
And then there's this one.
Yep. Well, they're really good, and you can walk in without a reservation, and they'll exchange it for a park hopper, and you then just use the barcode on the ticket they give you and put that into the app, and it all works well.
You want to see a real old one?
Yeah. How much is that? Oh, yeah, the ones I'm using
$5.50.
The ones I was using for $4 and $4.50. When I worked at the studio, I ended up real quick story. I had an office, and the one I was in yesterday, and I needed a filing cabinet, and they brought me a filing cabinet with no key. So it took a week for the locksmith to finally show up and open up the cabinet. When he did, there was a block of about 200 old Disneyland tickets in there because they had been previously used by the Disneyland admissions department. So my office mate and I sat there, one for you, one for me, one for you, one for me. And I ended up with about 100 Disneyland tickets. I think I'm down about my last 75 or so. So
looks like we need to come and visit you again.
Yeah.
You know, with that yellow one that I showed you, that was before then when they still had the tickets, the ticket books. So you would be sent ticket books with it, and that was the magic key tickets we got for, you could use on any ride.
I have about 100 of those. So because again, what was nice was we had the tickets, but if you were in management, you could use your ID card and show it instead of the tickets.
Right.
And we had one funny time. Carol and I were down at Disney World, and I had a day off, and we went on the Jungle Cruise. So we get up to the ticket taking place, and I showed them the ID card, which was like a blue card with a gold stripe on it. Meant you could take as many people as you wanted in. And the lady, oh, okay. And she very casually went up to the front of the line and told the skipper that, hey, you got some management guy getting on your boat. And we sat down, they put us right next to him, and he takes off, and he's absolutely panic struck because they have the proof script that they're supposed to do, and everybody ad-libs like crazy. And the poor guy is trying to remember, he doesn't want to get and he's just hemming and hawing and stumbling. And I finally leaned over and said, I'm on my vacation, enjoy yourself. The guy looked so relieved, and he was able to do it. When we got off the boat, he just leaned over to me and said, thank you. So it was just so funny because they were trying to be so casual. Watch out for that guy, watch out for that guy. I was just there having fun. It was great. I enjoyed it. So I'll see you on Wednesday, Brock, and see the rest of you in 2 weeks.
Okay.
It was good to see you. I always enjoy your presentations.
Good to see you again, Kendall. Take care.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye.